What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 341 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to talk to you about Batman Snow. You know nothing about Batman Snow. Sorry. I thought I could keep a straight face doing that. Clearly, I could not. This is a storyline from Batman Legends of the Dark Knight later on in the series run. Basically, the premise with that series was that almost every story in that series was set within the first 2 years of Batman's career. And this is a version of the first time that Batman fought Two-Face. And I like the story quite a bit. It's written by J.H. Williams III, who I have always thought of him as an artist. I never realized that he actually did some writing as well, with art by the late Seth Fisher. Now, I'll go ahead and talk about the art. When this came out, a lot of people did not like this book. They did not like the art in this book anyway. I personally really like Seth Fisher's art. I've always been very entertained by it. It kind of reminds me of the Where's Waldo books, except it's not so busy. You're not going to open a page here and it's just 1,000 characters crowding the page, but the art style reminds me a lot of the Where's Waldo books. Very cartoony, but not cartoony in the way that I usually mean. Usually when I say something is cartoony, I mean it has a very broad, angular style, kind of like Darwin Cook or Michael Cho or Bruce Timm. It's not cartoony in that way, but this is definitely not the realistic style that you're probably used to in most superhero comic books. But I liked it. A lot of people may not. Maybe I can just find a good example of the art here. Here is kind of what you are going to get in this book. I liked it, but again, it's not everyone's cup of tea. This guy, I think that he was setting the comic book world on fire, and unfortunately he died in an accident. I think that he would have been one of the legends today that we would still be talking about if he had continued, if he had lived and kept working in comics. But everything that I've read from Seth Fisher, I have really liked. The artwork is a big plus for me, but not everyone is going to like it. The story here, I like it quite a bit too. There are a few different things that I like about it. Number one, I like that this is able to take the broad strokes of Mr. Freeze's origin story that we saw in Batman the Animated Series and then later in the movie Batman and Robin. It's able to take the elements from that and work it in such a way where you can continue to use this Mr. Freeze as a villain. One problem that I had with Mr. Freeze in Batman the Animated Series was that he had a very tragic, very somber origin story, but then he's not a character who you could get more use out of later on. He really only could be used for one episode. Every other time that they used the character in the DC Animated Universe, it felt very inconsistent with the Heart of Ice episode. It felt like, okay, why is he doing what he's doing in this episode? This isn't the same motivations that he had whenever he was trying to avenge his wife in that one episode. What I like here is that we have the Nora Freeze is sick thing. That's all part of Mr. Freeze's origin, but then after a certain, breaking point for Mr. Freeze, he just goes crazy and he starts doing villainous things and he thinks that he's talking to Nora Freeze. I really like that change in his origin story. I think it works very well. It's using the elements that everyone loved from Batman the Animated Series, but it's also tweaking it just a little bit so that this is a character that you could use many more times if you want to. And that was always a problem that I had with the origin from the animated series. I also like that this is a story that tries to give Batman partners because at this point he's starting to realize that he can't do this on his own. He can't just be saving the city with Jim Gordon. There was an incident early in this book where Batman is trying to work with his partners that have already been established at this point in his career, Jim Gordon and Harvey Dent, and both of them are basically saying, no, we can't work with you at this point. Things are just going crazy. You're going to have to play by the book a little bit more. And so Batman realizes he is going to need some help that is not Jim Gordon and Harvey Dent. And so he immediately puts together a team of people who are each experts in some kind of field. He gets one guy who is a Green Beret. He gets one guy who is a computer expert. He gets all these people who are experts at different things, and basically each of them together, when you put them all together, they kind of create their own their own version of the Batman, because a lot of times you see Batman and he is an expert at everything. He's an expert in foreign languages, untying knots, diffusing bombs, doing all this stuff, fighting styles. So each of these guys, when you add them all together, they basically make Batman, sort of. And so it makes a lot of sense that he would be wanting to use these guys in his war on crime. But then, as we know about Batman, Batman is very much, I don't want to say a control freak, but he's very much, it's my way or the highway. If you're going to work with me in saving this city, we're going to have to do things my way. And Batman is very difficult to work with here, and then all these guys, I don't think I'm spoiling anything too much here, all of these guys basically realize that, and then they leave him. And then this story ends in a way, I won't spoil the ending, but it builds on that, where Batman realizes he is going to need a partner. He can't just keep doing this with Jim Gordon and Harvey Dent, where they are not really his partners. They're working with him because it's convenient for them. He is going to need someone who is going to be his partner that he can rely on. And he realizes that as good as these people were in this story, the ones that he was working with, he could not rely on them whenever it came down to it. So I like the way this book ends. I like the way it segues into something else. I really like everything about this book. I think this is a very underrated Batman story. I don't know why people don't talk about this more. Maybe because it came towards the end of Legends of the Dark Knight, and by that point, I guess people weren't as interested in this book as they were whenever it first started. But I really like it quite a bit. I think this is a very underrated book that everyone should check out. So anyway, those are my brief thoughts on Batman Snow. I hope that you guys liked this video, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will be back tomorrow with a different video. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.